What is the responsibility of the Muslims? What is the duty of the Muslims living in the West with regards to Palestine? So we've explained this many times before. Three levels that you have: tongue, hand, heart, or hand, tongue, heart, excuse me. The first responsibility for Muslims towards the Muslims in Gaza and in the West Bank, that's very important for you to understand. It's not just about Gaza. People want it to be just about Gaza. They want it to just be, Hamas, the terrorists that beheaded the babies. But it's deeper than that. There are people that aren't fighting in Gaza. There are people that have nothing to do with Gaza that are being bombed and blown up and shot. There are people that are still in jail, still detained, still locked up in the West Bank that had nothing to do with Hamas and evil Hamas. That is the problem. But they're going to isolate your mind. Oh, it's just between us and Hamas. That's not true. Trust me, that is not true. There are people dying, getting shot, being violated by settlers. Nothing to do with an official war. A settler with an assault rifle shooting you because you say, this is my land, this is my house, this is my farm, this is my olive tree grove. Bro, this is mine, you can't take it. Let alone the fact that, talking about the situation, the wars, 1948, 1967, 1976, etc., 2004, the UN, the partition of Palestine, which, FYI, was totally oppressive. It made no sense. It was illogical, let alone immoral. They gave 56% of the country to the overwhelming small minority of settlers and immigrants. Makes no sense. Let alone the division of the West Bank, the Gaza Strip. Jeff, it makes no sense. Nothing about it makes sense. From day one, it makes no sense. And it was a cause for disaster that we see today. But for argument's sake, in 1948, the partition. And then they fought. Obviously, Israel won the war. The Arab League or the Arab countries, they lost the war. And then they fought again in 1967, and they took more territory, more swaths of territory. So the partition of the UN, the land that was taken after those wars, despite those official legal borders and sections, what has Israel done since then and to this very day? They're illegally occupying places that, according to the agreement of international law, they're not supposed to be what? Occupying. And that's the stuff on the record. It's not talking about somebody walking in, 3-4 guys with guns, kicking in the door, kicking out some peasants and farmers. Leave, this is ours now. God gave it to us. You gotta go. So don't think that it's just people based off of, oh, terrorism, they're terrorists, we don't support terrorism. You could be a poor home person living by yourself, and you're gonna be a victim of violence living there. I saw the video of a Christian man and his wife, not Muslim, Christian. The guy pulled up his shirt. He showed all of the bruises. They beat him. The Israeli settlers beat him with sticks and kicked him and his wife off their land. That they've been living there, their parents been living there, and grandparents been living there for how many years? So don't think that it's just an issue of October the 7th. And it's an issue of, I don't support Hamas because they're terrorists. We don't believe in this, blah, blah. Don't. That's a trick. All right? That's a huge trick that they're employing against you. So if you can change it physically, you change it physically. Living in the West, how much can you physically change? What can you physically do? If you can't physically change it, then at least speak out against it. Enjoin the good, forbid the evil. Make dua for the Muslims, make dua against them, right? And if you're too scared, or if you're afraid about getting kicked out of school, or get kicked out of college, or being detained in Mecca, or wherever the case may be, then at least hate it in your heart. But do not justify it and legalize it and legitimize it, thinking that, oh, yeah, you know what, maybe it is Hamas's fault. They did kidnap people, they did shoot people, they're not supposed to, we don't believe in this is extreme, they're this, they're that. And you start making the victim the oppressor. You start making the oppressed people the cause behind them being oppressed. And that's a sickness that has spread in the Ummah, unfortunately. Right? Something happens to a person and say, oh, wow, it was your fault, what was you doing there? Yo, subhanAllah. Yo, Muff, I'm stuck. I need you to come real quick with some, you know what I mean? Where you at? I'm on my way. After we take care of whatever situation, what was you doing out there to do by yourself at nighttime? Well, what was you do? We'll handle that what? After. But right now, yo, I need you to come ASAP. I'm in a real what? Tight situation I need you to bring, you know what I mean? It's nothing to discuss. Then we can figure out afterwards, so on and so forth. Versus, well, I ain't helping you right now because you had no business being out there. Was you wearing a thobe or was you wearing pants? Would you have a kufi? Did you think you was a Muslim? Or that's your problem. That's your fault. You should have been dressed like a Muslim. That's a sick mentality to have, right? May Allah help us all.
Ameen.
Of course, a lot can be said about the Palestinian situation. My last piece of advice is to please read, listen to the audio books, watch the documentaries, watch the historic films that show you what happened. Do not take your information from mainstream media. Okay? And if you are going to listen and watch mainstream media, then also look at what they're actually saying. And from that is the places where they're supposed to be, which they are not. So whether Hamas attacked on October 7th or not, Palestinians, predominantly Muslim, of course, are losing their blood, their property, and their honor. That's the end of the discussion. So there's some type of responsibility that you have as a Muslim, a moral responsibility. And the same applies to Sudan. And the same applies to any other part of the world. The Uyghurs, wherever they are, in which the Muslims are being wronged and oppressed and hurt and harmed, and they're suffering, we all have responsibilities according to our ability. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. People fighting online because of the Palestine issue. Even the YouTube dawah scene has become a mess, so on and so forth. I'll humbly agree, we can agree to disagree. I don't think that the YouTube dawah scene has become a mess. It's been a mess. Different du'at, different scholars have been fighting and warring and making videos and responses way before. Me personally, and Allah surely knows best, I don't see why the people are fighting and arguing. I don't understand what's the fight and argue about. I don't get it. I honestly, I don't get it. I seriously don't understand. What's there to discuss? So one may discuss, for example, Hamas, good guys or bad guys. Or they may discuss, can we protest? Or they may discuss, should it be a two-state solution, so on and so on and so on and so on and so forth. All right, no problem. What are we fighting? What are we discussing? It's clear as day. The situation, what it has been, what it is, and what it, inshallah, only Allah knows best what's going to happen and what it's going to be. What is there to discuss? If somebody comes in and steals and swindles you and forces you from your land, from your possessions, kills your family, your mother, your uncle, what would you do? What would you do? Like, this is a serious question. What would you do? Would you just give up and run away? Or no, you should make peace? Look what the result of those who make peace. Look what happens to them. So I don't think people are aware of the reality of the situation. Okay, what do? They shouldn't have attacked on October the 7th. They're responsible for the bloodshed. They're responsible for all those, what was it, 15,000 people dead now? Something like that? Crazy numbers? I don't know. They're responsible. They had no art. What were they supposed to do? What were they supposed to do? They're gonna find some reason somehow to kill, to blow up, to destroy, and to get rid of them. One way or another. So, yeah, my advice is don't speak without knowledge. My advice is to make dua for the Muslims. My advice is to make dua against those non-Muslims that are harming the Muslims and have harmed the Muslims greatly. And my advice is for you to pick your side. You can't be on both sides. You gotta be with Islam or Kufr. Muslims or Kuffar. It's just that simple. Wallahu alam. That doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything. That doesn't mean that you're with all of this and that. I don't have to agree with everything. But, I mean, just look. Open up your eyes. It's plain and simple. Wallahu alam.